Good evening. Why is Joe wearing a tank top today? It's a question that you might be asking, even though I've worn a tank top in many of my videos so far. So you should really go back and look at my catalog of videos before you make such criticisms. Honestly, I feel weird wearing a tank top. Still feels like something that's odd to me, because I didn't for such a long time. There's a part of me that feels like whenever I wear a tank top, I'm asking for people to ogle me. Like I feel like I'm advertising something. There's just something that feels very narcissistic about it, or I don't know, self-aggrandizing. Not the right word, I don't know. Well, on that phenomenally awkward start, the reason why, not that there needed to be a reason, is that I'm going to talk about my tattoos today. Because, I don't know, I feel like they're a big part of me, and I both love and hate my tattoos. Not even like any particular tattoo do I love or hate more than the other. I guess I've never thought about it before. I don't really have a favorite or least favorite. It's more that the fact that I even decided to get tattoos, like let one tattoo, let alone, you know, a ton of them that cover my whole arm, I've always sort of gone back and forth on whether or not that was the right thing to do, whether or not it's the truest expression of myself. But for better or worse, they're all a part of me. And each one of these tattoos has, you know, a story behind it, as they do. And I don't care what anybody says, there's always some meaning behind a tattoo that you get. Even if you weren't looking the entire time and your tattoo artist draws a picture of a pomegranate and you don't like pomegranates, they don't mean anything to you, you have a story related to it. Like, there's always a story behind every tattoo. That each tattoo is a time capsule. It puts you back exactly to the place where you got it, right? So, I'm gonna just talk about, I have 6 tattoos. They're all on this arm. I don't have a tattoo any other place on my whole body. This is strictly my tattoo canvas. So the very first tattoo I have, I'm trying to get, this is one that's hard to get a good angle of, because if I turn my arm completely upside down like this, it can get all twisted, but if you can see it okay, that says inhale, 1, 2, 3, exhale, and it's surrounded by like a cloud. I worry sometimes that people might see that and think that it means like something related to smoking. It's nothing to do with that. I first got the idea. I had just watched a little Facebook short. It was just like a 1-minute video, and I think you can find it on YouTube. I think it has a lot of views. It's just a monk talking about how we can meditate anytime, anywhere, by just simply focusing on the breath. And he talks about it's giving a little job to your monkey mind that's going all over the place and constantly just yammering, you know, won't stop flapping its trap. But then all that it takes is just and you're in the state of meditation, and you're just present. Now, granted, I will say that's a wonderful surface level introduction to what meditation is. And I think if you actually try to sit down and meditate for any prolonged period of time, you will find that, yeah, you might technically be meditating, but I mean, there's still, the idea that you're going to sit down and be a meditation master, as I think a lot of people expect to, like you're instantly just going to go into the Zen blissed out mode. It's about as likely as like you're going to pick up a saxophone and by complete accident know how to play it perfectly. It's just not how it works. Meditation is very, very complicated. For as simple as it is, it's extremely complicated, and maybe complicated is the wrong word. It's just very demanding, even though it's undemanding. See, it's all paradoxical, and that just makes it more complicated. But what's funny about that, so I got that tattoo in 2016, and I did not actually start a regular meditation practice until about 1.5 years later, when I started watching Actualized's videos with Leo. And for a while I was pretty obsessed with his channel. I still listen to him here and there. I still think he has a lot of valuable stuff to say. especially, life advice kind of stuff. But he's the one that really, put things in a way that made me understand, hey, meditating is valuable to me and I should be doing it regularly. Because, yeah, almost as soon as I got this, I decided that I started meditating, and I was like, man, I'm just bored, and I'm not even doing a good job of focusing on my breath. My mind keeps going other places. I guess meditation is really not for me. But it's also funny because meditation is so important to me now. Even though I skimp on it sometimes, like I do with every good thing in my life, it's still extremely important to me. At the core of it, and I know that I'm never gonna stop meditating altogether. Like, I'm never gonna be like, man, it's been like years since I've meditated. I don't know what's the longest that I've gone without meditating since first starting my practice, but those weeks or months are always the worst of my entire life. When you've been meditating for a long time and you stop doing it, you literally have withdrawals where you're just inundated with all these horrible negative thoughts. And of course, horrible negative thoughts can still arise. Sometimes it actually shines more of a spotlight on them when you meditate because you just become more aware of everything that you're thinking. But they're a lot easier to deal with than when you're not meditating. I also got this, I got this tattoo with this British girl. This really beautiful British girl that I had a crush on at the time, but I didn't tell her. But then, we were just having a day on the town. We worked at a summer camp together. It was our day off. So we just went around the city of Portland. We saw Powell's Books. We got Dairy Queen, which I can't believe my stomach could ever handle Dairy Queen these days. This was over 5 years ago. It was lovely. And then I told her, hey, I was thinking about getting a tattoo. So we walked into this tattoo place that's pretty close to my house, and got a quote for it, and he said, hey, you could come back today and you'll get it. What? No way! No stinking way! That's awesome! And you know what's also cool? Was that the girl that I was with decided to get a tattoo. She already had one tattoo, I think only one. And she decided that she was going to get a second one on that particular day, and she got some nice little lavender sprigs. So it happened to just be a tattoo day for both of us, and I love that, like I was saying about how every time you get a tattoo, there's a story surrounding it. It's a whole event. I love that we always have that day. Obviously, with her living in the UK, so we weren't a thing on that particular day, but we ended up having a little end of the summer fling. It was really, really nice. It was really sweet, and it's very nostalgic to think about. Even though, we're obviously not still together because she's gone back to the UK, and we've still been in touch and we're still friends. We've had lovely little Netflix viewing parties. I was actually going to go to London and I was going to stay with her for a week or two last year, but, this funny thing happened last year. And I don't know. This one makes me just think of a simpler time. And it makes me think of this really beautiful British girl. I cannot get a good angle. I really should have planned more about this. Oh, but you know what? You know what else about this is that I wanted it to be functional. So it says inhale, 1, 2, 3, exhale. I wanted to tap on the numbers as I was breathing during the day. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2. And with each count to 3, I would take in a breath, hold that breath, let it out, and then pause for 3. I really haven't ended up doing that. You will not see me in my day-to-day going. Although I have gotten into a little bit of tapping meditation, I've done a little bit of that. Did I get all of them? I can't. Maybe. But it's sort of a similar process, and a lot of it's tapping on the hand. So maybe I even came full circle with the numbering too. Yeah, it's just kind of cool. That was my first tattoo. It was about a topic that I honestly had just barely heard about. That was the first time I ever got taught meditation in any sort of digestible way, because it was literally a 1-minute Facebook video. And what do you know? It ended up a little while later becoming something that's super duper important to me, and something I really could not live without. So right here we got Harold and the Purple Crayon. This is one that I always wondered about. The tattoo artist just put a picture of like a verbatim picture of this copyrighted character onto my arm. Now, it might be old enough that it's in the public domain. I'm not really sure if public domain is even a thing that really exists anymore because of Disney. But I'm like, if there is a copyright on that, did he just do something illegal? Because he made money by just straight up using the same image. I don't know exactly the legalities, so this might be a contraband tattoo, and they might need to chop off that part of my arm. Or maybe just do a little skin pull off that part. Another funny thing about this is that in the book, Harold and the Purple Crayon, which you don't know is a lovely children's book, he pointed out, at least on the copy that I had, the crayon is not really purple. It is more of a magenta. I've seen some copies where it looks more purple, I don't know. But he asked, like, would you rather have it look like the crayon in the book, or would you rather have it just be, you know, straight up purple, like the title of the book? And that was a tough thing for me to reconcile. I decided I wanted to look more like the book, so I got it that more magenta-ish color. Yeah, I was just pretty, so I had just gotten my first tattoo that summer, like 4 months prior. And I was just on a roll. It's like literally once you get one tattoo, you just want to get more and more and more. And so I asked my mom if I could, if like one of my Christmas presents could be that she gets me a tattoo. And you know what's awesome is that my mom did it. And my mom, I don't know if maybe I've made her come around a little bit on the concept. Yeah, probably not. She probably still thinks they're stupid. But I remember when I was younger, like asking her, obviously with hyperbole, like, would you disown me if I ever got a tattoo? She's like, no, but I think it was ugly. But I think that I think she likes that one. Because she used to read me that book, you know? And I also had her come with me. I was like, can part of my present be that you like come with me while I get this tattoo? And it was a really easy tattoo. I mean, it's just an outline. The only thing that took any time was filling the color of the crayon. She comes with me, and she sat with me the whole time, and she's like, hey, this scary looking tattoo guy is actually not a scary person, and hey, obviously Joe is in pain right now because tattoos will always hurt regardless of what anyone says. I've heard stories of people saying that, oh, you know, I straight up fell asleep while I was getting my tattoo. Didn't feel anything. Oh, it doesn't. Any tattoo that you get, people ask, like, is it going to hurt if I get it here, if I get it here, 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 here? Yes. Yes, it's going to hurt wherever you get it. Are there places where it hurts more and less? Yeah, sure. But do not, if you expect that you're going to go into it completely and like come out like completely pain-free, you got another thing coming, mister, or missus, or miss, or master, or something that's genderless that I could call you. It just, it's going to hurt, right? But that's part of what I like about it, though. It's like when you're exercising, like, man, gosh, that was so brutal, that run, and it just beat me to heck, and I didn't think I could do it, but hey, I powered through and I finished it. It gives me that sort of same satisfaction at the end of it all. Is the fact that, yeah, I was strong enough to withstand this. I'm not weak. So there's some padding to my ego whenever I successfully get a tattoo. But yeah, I think my mom really enjoyed the process of being there with me while I was getting it. And, you know, I really appreciate that she was just open-minded to it. My mom's nothing if not open-minded to me. I mean, sure, we all have our firmly rooted beliefs in ways that we're, like, totally closed off to other people, but if I start showing interest in something, even if my mom doesn't like it, it's not too hard for her to, you know, be a little bit flexible. My mom's awesome in that way. But I don't remember why I was particularly obsessed with Harold and the Purple Crayon at that time, but I just loved the idea that this kid is so imaginative that he draws. If you don't know, basically the plot of the book is just this kid's just drawing stuff around him, and then it becomes real enough. Like, it still looks like crayon. I don't know if he's drawing on the wall in real life, but he, like, his imagination is so strong that, like, if he draws a boat, he can literally get in that boat while it, like, goes across the water. Or he can draw a tree and then climb that tree. Like he can draw a whole world that he can interact with. It's not an adaptation, but it's similar. There's a show called Chalk Zone. Rudy's got the chalk. That's a great show that very few people remember, and I'm disturbed. It's a great show. It was a great little Saturday morning cartoon that I used to watch. I think that's such a good analogy for just like it's just such a good representation of the power of imagination. You can be so invested in the stuff that you're creating, even if it's completely fictional. You can be so, and like doesn't exist anywhere but up here, but you can be so invested in it that you make it real. It's like, where does anything that you create come from? I mean, it kind of comes from your brain, but like your brain had to also get it from somewhere. It very much feels like, I mean, creating is magic. Creating is just a form of making that which isn't real, it's out in the ether somewhere, it's fairy dust, turning it into something. There's a great book called God is Nothingness, which isn't, it's not the sacrilege that you probably think it is. It's literally saying that before anything exists, it is nothing. It comes from somewhere. You bring it out of complete absence. And so you might think that nothing is like the lack of it, but it's actually the place where everything starts. So it's like the nothingness is the pure potential of everything. I'm getting really spiritual, metaphysical, just talking about this little children's book, but it's just, that's what I really loved about it. And it was at a time when I was really starting to get in touch with the fact that, hey, I'm studying accounting, like I'm in college for this, but like, I'm a creator, I'm an artist, I'm a performer through and through. And I just love the idea that I can make something and interact with it in like such a real fashion. In like it feels so real to me to read a piece of prose that has fictional characters, or to be in one of my acting roles, step into this character and just be in that character's world. It's literally its own form of magic. And from what I understand, kind of cool, there's going to be a Harold and the Purple Crayon film pretty soon. I've been seeing casting calls for it online. And so I guess there's going to be, I don't know what, I'm so divided on whenever anybody decides to adapt a children's book. Because they can be really good, but especially like little picture books, you have to take so many creative liberties with it. And that creates a lot of room for people to mess up. Anybody ever see Cat in the Hat with Mike Myers? I'm ashamed to admit that I actually really liked that movie as a kid. Actually, no, I'm not really ashamed to admit that I like anything. Because I still kind of like that movie just because I remember how excited I was to see it as a kid, and I had a great time with it. I mean, it's a crappy little pandering, stupid movie, and I think Dr. Seuss would watch it and be completely insulted, but it was bright and it was colorful and it had, some bodily humor and some silly Mike Myers making funny voices and wearing crazy costumes. I have a soft spot for that movie, even knowing that it's really, really bad. I actually got that movie, The Cat in the Hat. I got it for my friend for his, how old was he turning at the time? He was turning 16. I got it for my friend for his 16th birthday because I remember him saying how much he hated it. I got a VHS copy of it too. This was back in like 2009. So like VHS had been discontinued, but it wasn't as much of a relic as it is today. And I put like $20 in there too. So we got a real gift along with it, but I did get him the Cat in the Hat VHS tape. And we went over, he and his friends played basketball with it, and then they like dunked it down the hoop, and it just like smashed the whole thing. That's what I said to him. I was like, hey, because he was like, you stinking, you gave me Cat in the Hat. And I was like, yeah, but I mean, now you can destroy it. So, hey, you got something out of it. Yeah, Harold and the Purple Crayon, the second tattoo that I ever got, and I aspire to be more like that little bald boy. All right, moving on to the third. We have a cute little chess pawn. The line work on this is not very good. And that's another one where I literally just got an image from somewhere else and gave it to the tattoo artist, and the tattoo artist put no, because I didn't ask them to, they didn't put any sort of creative spin on it, right? They didn't contribute anything imaginatively. This was all, man, this was the same year too. Isn't that funny? I got most of my tattoos in the span of about a year and a half. That is really funny to think about. But I was really obsessed with chess at the time. I remember watching this 60 Minutes spot about Magnus Carlsen, and just obviously blew my mind just how brilliant he was, playing 10 chess games at the same time with his back turned. He was able to keep track of 10 different games going on, and the fact that he just seemed like, I know it's definitely hyperbole, like I've learned about the chess community, I know that he's not a god by any means, but he's still quite a bit beyond pretty much everybody else in the chess community. I'm excited about Alireza Firouzja, the fact that he's doing so well and he's so young. I mean, I really have high hopes for what it's going to mean for, I might get to see Magnus Carlsen, who I really respect and is awesome. I might get to see him get dethroned soon, and that's going to be weird because he's been the number one in the chess community for over 10 years, for over a solid decade. Okay, so anyway, watch the 60 Minutes thing. I think that's awesome. Watch it a handful of times. Still don't really start playing chess. And then I started seeing ads for like the Magnus Trainer app, and my mind just went more and more to chess. And I had played chess in elementary school. I was in the after-school chess club. But I never took it that seriously. It was kind of just something to keep me occupied after school. But I learned the basic rules of chess from it. I literally remember none of the chess strategy I learned in that class. And I don't think I was ever particularly great at it. But for some reason this same year, it was my senior year of college, I just got really, really into chess, and I was playing it just all the time on my phone. Even in the middle of class. There was one class where I literally almost failed that class. I mean, I was doing other things, goofing around in class, because it was one of those professors that didn't make you put away your phone, but he would politely acknowledge that you are on your phone. I was like, oh yes, thank you for the acknowledgement. I'm going to get back to my chess game now. I was just playing it all the time, and I would annoy my girlfriend and my other friends, just like with how much I was asking them to play chess whenever they were around me. So, I think what really got me interested in chess at the time was that I've never really been a big sports guy. And the thing that we most commonly see people compete over is what's considered a traditional sport. Some people call chess a sport. I'm not going to argue with you. If you want to call it a brain sport, sure, whatever. Doesn't really matter. But that's exactly what I liked about it, was that it's a proficiency that you can have that's just purely based on what's up here. And you can rule the world, in some sense, just by learning the mechanisms of this game. About how pieces move about, and learning just the complexity of, I thought, when I started playing chess, I thought, I'll just play a lot of chess, and that'll just make me gradually improve. But then you actually start learning about how you improve at chess. It's a lot of just rote studying. It's a lot of studying and memorizing positions, and the memorization of these people is just off the charts. I mean, I can't believe it. I honestly think, because I have a really good memory. I mean, you might notice that I don't have a good short-term memory in some of these videos. I have a great long-term memory. My friend that I just went to a little family gathering with him the other night. He was like, I always am very impressed by how much you remember stupid little details from the past. Like, yeah, that's me. I really think that if I had just sat down and applied myself at chess as like my one discipline. And it probably would have had to be my one discipline, so I don't exactly regret the fact that I didn't follow that path. But I think I would be really good at it. I don't know. I don't know that I would ever approach nearly the Magnus Carlsen level. In fact, I can tell you for a fact that I wouldn't. When you learn about how his wacky memory from when he's like 4 years old, he can already name all the countries in the world and their capitals and their populations. I wasn't to that degree. But, I could have been really, really good at chess. And, I still could be really good at chess. It's just that, like then, I have a lot of other things that I am trying to put my time towards so that I can get better at it and always feel like I'm on the path to mastery too. With my acting, with my music, even doing something like this, I feel like I really look forward to in a couple more years when I can make these hour-long videos and have them be halfway watchable. So where was I even going with this? Yeah, so I really liked this. I really liked words, man. I was just really, really obsessed with chess at the time. And I had a girlfriend at the time who said, hey, there's this place in a city that's like 20, 30 minutes away from where we went to school. Has a tiny tattoo Tuesday. So if you go on Tuesdays between these hours, you can get a tattoo, a small one, has to fit these tiny dimensions, for $30, which is extremely cheap for a tattoo. Even one that's that small, if it wasn't having a deal, I'm guessing that it would cost at least $50. So we went there one day, and I just found this picture of a pawn, because obviously the pawn is the foundation of all of chess. It's like the most tiny little. It's the most tiny and the least powerful, but there's so many of them, and so many games are determined by who got the extra pawn advantage early on, like who had one more pawn than the other person. And the pawn has always got the bigger guys back. So the bigger guys, they can brute force their way more, but the pawn, it knows that without them, those things would fall apart. If I wasn't here right now, you would get torn into pieces. Maybe that's me appreciating myself indirectly. I feel like I'm small, but without me, things would fall apart. I just know it. I just know it, man. But yeah, and the fact also that every pawn, when it gets to the other side of the board, can become a queen. Every pawn is a potential queen on that board. You have 8 potential queens when you start the game. It just has to take its adventure, and it has to put in its time. Yeah, I still follow chess. I still follow chess probably closer than most sports. I do look at the NBA stats and the NFL stats. I don't really sit down and watch the games all that much, but I have come around on just sports in general, but I just felt like chess at the time was just a less, it was a less aggressive scream at the TV kind of sport. That's what mostly deferred me away from basketball and football for a while. Although I do really love basketball as well. It was just the brutal nature of its fans sometimes. And dude, chess is not full of angels. The people who play chess are very smart, and so they kind of got some snooty better than you stick up their butts, right? But it's like when I went to a math and science magnet school, the chess elitists kind of make me feel like I'm around those people again. But at the end of the day, chess is just a really, really cool game, and it's a great strategy game. I wish that I knew how to pronounce it. It's Agad Mator. I don't know. His name's Antonio. Agadmator. He makes these really great chess analysis games that just breaks it down to these really Not always the most easy to understand if you're not at all familiar with the game, but just he presents it in a really approachable way. He's a fun guy. He's got a really good sense of humor. He's got specific little points in the videos. Like, it follows a very clear format. He's a very organized dude, and he makes videos super quickly, and like super consistently. Awesome YouTube channel you should check out. All right, so that is my little $30 chess pawn. So that's why I give it a pass for not having great line work. I only paid $30 for it. Okay, so moving on, we got right here. This is the one I get the most comments on. Probably just because it's like front and center on my forearm. You can see my lovely little wrist zit as well. It is a lamp with some squiggly lines coming out of it. Some magical little squigglies. That lamp is actually based on the real lamp that's in my room. It's hard to, in some ways I feel like this lamp tattoo means the most to me of all my tattoos. In some ways I think that might be the case. I can't be certain, but it's got a good mix of what I like about my life and myself and how I express myself. And it sounds really goofy to put all that importance on a picture of a tattoo with squiggly lines, a picture of a lamp with squiggly lines coming out of it. So I don't know if I had that lamp before. I don't know why it was given to me. But my mom moved into this house, and this is the first home that my mom ever owned. So I was, I think 18 or 19 when she first moved in here. And she set up my room for me, because I was away at college. This was just going to be my, stay over here while I, on breaks and certain weekends kind of thing. And I remember coming back home and sometimes lying in my bed in this room. This used to be my bedroom. It's where I film now, but it used to just be my bedroom. And the lamp just had this really lovely glow to it. The lamp my mom put in here. This really nice, soft, easy glow that just made me feel like I was okay. And with this being the first home that my mom actually owned, and like, hey, this is here to stay, the glow of that lamp I just associated with that feeling of you have some stability and some security here. And this place was a real safe haven for me. I mean, especially my room here was a real safe haven for me. I don't know that it can necessarily serve that same purpose to me these days, just because I've had to move back here after, finishing college. And in some ways, I'd really rather not live here anymore. It's still a real blessing, and I need to remind myself of that. It's still a real blessing to have a stinking roof over your head. A blessing some people would kill for. But it doesn't quite have that same comforting, it's okay here kind of vibe that it maybe used to. And that's okay. That's okay. I mean, the classic absence makes the heart grow fonder kind of thing. This used to be a special place for me. And it was always lovely plopping down on my bed and basking in that warm little lamp glow. I specifically remember it was, during spring break being here. I was reading in the glow of this lamp this book called Henderson the Rain King, which I hate that I even have to say this. It's a bit problematic by today's standards. There's some depictions of African culture which are probably not super accurate. I wouldn't say that it's downright insulting, but basically it's about this old man, not that old, middle-aged man who has this life crisis and goes to Africa to sort of find himself. And just something about it. It just got me in a way of like, it's a universal feeling to not really know your place in this world. And though I'm not that character's age, I mean, I feel like I'm grappling with that constantly. Who am I? What am I doing here? And yeah, I don't know why that memory of reading that book in the glow of this lamp is so important to me, was so significant to me, but it was. And that was the first, it was because when I was reading that book, that was the first time I really noticed just how lovely this lamp illuminated the room. I ask people all the time, do you prefer if you need to light up the room, do you prefer to use the overhead or a lamp? And I will always say a lamp. I don't get people who'd rather use the overhead. It's too harsh, covers too much of the room. A lamp is a nice soft glow, and you can put it wherever you actually need the light to be the strongest. And you can move it accordingly. Oh, it's not bright enough over here, let me move the lamp over here. Yeah, so it's so silly that I think that's another thing I love about it. It reflects my obsessive nature over things that are probably pretty small. Like, I don't know many people that really think about the implications of lighting a room with a lamp as opposed to the overhead light. I'm probably one of the few people that's going to do that. And then I also, the squiggly, like, sort of psychedelic feel to it. I love that too. I'm very in touch with the magic of the world, and I always want to bring a little bit of that, even into stuff that I write that's a little bit more real. Even with the stuff that I do that's a bit more real. I always like it to have a teensy bit of that otherworldly aspect to it. There's a book called The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene, and he talks about all the different seductor types, and I read it, and mine is definitely the star. Which does, and that's not, I'm the star. I mean, maybe that's how he meant it. That's not, I believe it's a magical star. It's a person. The star gives you a glimpse into somewhere else. Somewhere off and unknown that you'll probably never see. They give you just like a tiny little window into that. And I like to do that through everything that I present myself with. Even here sometimes I'm thinking I'd really like to adjust the tone of these videos to have maybe some more of those performative aspects to it. That's something I'll figure out in time, but I want to create a little bit of a vibe here that you can, by my talking and rambling and all this other stuff, and different ways that I can make these videos, I can just dress them up a little bit. I can give you a glimpse into somewhere beyond our boring lives, even when I am just operating within our boring lives. So yeah, it's magical, and I also, like, I drew this. The tattoo artist drew a better version of this, but I drew this. Like, this was my concept. And I gave him a little dummy prototype version of it. And that makes me feel really cool too. I've never seen anything like this before. And I know that because I said that, tomorrow I'm going to find a picture of something that came out way before I got this tattoo. This was the summer of 2017. I will find something that makes me realize, oh wow, my idea wasn't totally original, and then I'll be super self-deprecating. Like, well, I don't do anything original, of course. I'm nothing but derivative crap. I should probably never make anything ever again. It doesn't take me very much. It doesn't take very much for me to go from being Picasso to, I don't know, I don't want to name any specific artist, but a very low-rent artist, bottom dollar. You know what was funny was after getting this tattoo, I took public transport home. I could have driven, but I wanted a day out on the light rail. And at one of the stations, my ex-girlfriend from high school, like, was there. she was like, "Hey, Joe, what's up?" And she comes over and talks to me for a little bit. And I'm a little bit uncomfortable, but you know, it's fine. It's whatever. And she's babysitting, and she's with these kids that she's helping take on that she's taken on the light rail also. And I'm talking to her, and I keep accidentally swearing. I'm not trying to, but I keep accidentally doing it. Just a weird little happenstance with this. Pretty much, well, okay, with the exception of Harold and the Purple Crayon, because I got that with my mom, all the ones so far have been, they've all been tattoos that were somehow tied to a significant other. Even if I didn't plan them to be. So, that's pretty funny. Alright, moving on. We got this one that wraps around my bicep. It is, I love this one because nobody can tell what it is straight on. Generally, they're not quite sure right away, but it is a hand. It's a ghost hand that wraps all the way around my arm. Some people see this and they think it's the hind end of a dog. See, like that's its leg and that's its tail. And then some people, like they look at this and they're not entirely sure what that is. They're like, what is that? Like your like racing stripes? Like, or you're like Tony the Tiger or something? It's a ghost hand. And I got that one because, it's like, let me take a little sippy of this. I really like horror movies. And I can't quite handle horror movies the way that I used to be able to, but horror movies really mean a lot to me because in high school, every Halloween season, I would just watch tons and tons of horror movies. It was like a ritual that I had, and I like literally call it mental slavery. I mentally enslaved myself to watch as many horror movies as possible in the Halloween season. And yeah, I also like that people I don't think I come across as the kind of person that would really be super into horror movies. I feel like it's expanded more so that there's not such a stereotype around the kind of people that like horror movies. But people have always sort of viewed me as kind of innocent. And I always liked that I had that aspect of myself that wasn't so innocent. Nobody's really innocent though, even the people that put on, you know, a front or have a natural, non-threatening vibe to them. I mean, everybody's got a dark side. And I think in many ways we like horror movies because it shines a light on that dark side that we've maybe repressed sometimes, or that people are so quick to deny in themselves. Horror movies have been very important to me. I can't watch them like I used to. And I could get into a whole bunch of reasons why, but I can still enjoy and appreciate a good horror movie. I just don't think I could ever do another Halloween season where I even just watched one a day. I had one day this Halloween season, this past October. I had one day when I watched, I think, 5 horror movies. And I was like, okay, Joe, you might have changed a little bit since high school to the point where you can't quite handle that like you used to. Anyway, what was funny about this tattoo, a couple funny things. So I went to the tattoo place. This is actually the closest tattoo place to my house. I went there and, you know, I met the tattoo artist. She seemed cool enough. I proposed the idea to her. That's always the most vulnerable part of getting a tattoo, is meeting the tattoo artist and telling them, hey, I kind of like this sort of thing, and you have to explain your concept. And if it's something that's a little bit unique, a little bit out there, a little bit funky, it's like, oh, can you please try not to judge me for this thing that I want to get? And tattoo artists they're the least likely to be judgmental about your creative vision, unless it's something that's like outright offensive. You know, even then, some tattoo artists would probably still do it. I mean, you see people with a certain symbol on their forehead sometimes. Mr. Charlie Manson. Like, people do tattoos of disgusting things, right? If they're allowed to do that, I'm allowed to get a tattoo of a darn ghost hand. But anyway, so then I present the idea to her, and she's like, okay, so I need to put you on the reservation list. What's your name? And I tell her my name. And she's like, dude, we went to high school together. Oh yeah, I was like, yeah, we did. She was a girl that was. We had a handful of classes together in high school. Never really talked to each other though. She was in my PE class. She was in my sophomore English class. She was in my junior year social studies class. It's called History of the Americas. She was in a whole bunch of classes that I had, and she was just a person that I never happened to really talk to. And she was, I don't know what she would call herself, but I always kind of got a little bit of a goth vibe from her. And she seemed like she was an anime chick too. She would sometimes wear like ears and like a fake tail. Um, she was kind of a cool, weird, freaky kind of girl in high school, and I just never really happened to talk to her. I was quite a bit more judgmental at the time about that kind of stuff too, so there was probably a time when I was like, you see what she's wearing? That's pretty silly, isn't it? I was never outright mean about it or anything, but anyway, so girl I went to high school with that I always got I got like a cool, strange vibe from, and she was doing my cool, strange tattoo. And I go to get it, and she tells me right off the bat, like, she's like, this is such a cool tattoo idea. You did, like, such a weird... She's like, and that's one thing that she specifically tells me. She was like, you always came across as this, like, funny, likable dude, and the fact that you want this horror movie tattoo is surprising, but, like, super awesome. I'm like, yeah, right. Oh, this is great. And she was the one that really sold it to me that, like, every tattoo is gonna hurt. She's a tattoo artist, and she's like, dude, every tattoo I get, there are certain parts of it that are just absolutely excruciating. So she does this tattoo, and you will notice that it is quite a bit faded. There was a lot of black fill on this tattoo, and I believe that it came with one free touch-up, but I never went back for it. I don't know why. I leave a lot of good opportunities on the table. But I was supposed to keep the bandage on for like a couple days after I got it, and the bandage started peeling off pretty quickly, and so she was like, if it starts to do that, don't leave it on, just take it off and wash it right away. So I did. I think in the process of that, I probably lost some ink, and so... it's a little bit faded, but the thing is, it's a ghost hand, so it actually kind of works that there's some skin poking through. Maybe I'm just saying that to make myself feel better, but it's kind of like the ghost is grabbing me and it's like fusing into me. This is another thing I want to point out about, just on the topic of mistakes with tattoos. The fact that it's a magenta crayon, but I'm colorblind. I think it works perfectly that I could say, yeah, it's Harold in the purple crayon. What? That's not purple? It's not? Well, darn the color blindness again. But then the last funny detail about the ghost tattoo is that, it's a lot of black fill, which means a lot of pain. And while she was doing it, I was the teensiest bit under the influence of marijuana, because I'd never done that before getting a tattoo before. And that was fine in and of itself. But then also, she was playing this... Like I said, she's kind of a cool out there girl. She playing this like, kind of scary like demon music, and I'm just in the worst pain I've ever gotten getting a tattoo. This is like the most painful tattoo I've ever gotten, and especially the parts where she's filling in right here on the bony part. I'm literally being dragged down to the underworld right now. This is exactly what's going on. This is God punishing me for watching all those scary movies and for wanting to get something so sacrilegious on my arm permanently. God is punishing me with this scary, painful experience. But I mean, I was laughing all the way through. You ever have something that's just so perfectly lined up to be bad that you just have to laugh about it. And it was a really fun experience at a really not so great time in my life. I associate that it was my birthday present at the time. I had just turned 23, I think, and You know, I was just fresh out of college and feeling like very, very worthless. And there's something very beautiful when you reminisce on times when you were just profoundly miserable. And I don't know if I'm profoundly miserable right now, but I feel like I'm going to reminisce on these times and that misery that I was. Maybe I'm not profoundly miserable, maybe I'm just, I don't know what a good... maybe I'm just flat miserable. I don't know. So, last tattoo. So, like I said, all of that stuff happened in the course of about a year and a half. Like, I believe that this first one, the Inhale Exhale, was August of 2016. And then this was like March of 2018. Maybe like April. So, those are my 5 tattoos. 1, 2, 3. Oh, dude, I totally skipped over one. Oh, wow. This is a line from an Eric B. and Rakim song. This is when I first started getting into rap. You know, I'm glad that I'm not going to go into too much detail about this one, because I'll talk about my obsession with rap maybe sometime later on. It's a line from an Eric... I wish that I could get the angle good. It says, when I'm writing, I'm trapped in between the line. I escape when I finish the rhyme. And it's got a whole bunch of like misspellings and stuff crossed out and whatnot. There's a part where I wrote, it says dramatic pause right here. Yeah. It's a line from an Eric B. and Rakim song. Beautiful, eloquent song lyric about what it's like to write songs. And so I decided to write it out in my chicken scratch handwriting with words and letters crossed out and stuff inserted here and there, because when you're writing a song, it's very, very, like somebody else could look at it and it's very, very hard to read because my handwriting stinks and I make a lot of edits to it when it's on the paper. And I still prefer writing songs on paper. I can do it on the computer. Nothing wrong with that. There's just something that feels more like inviting to a free flow of creativity when I write it out longhand. Wow, I thought I had 6 tattoos. And then I get to do this, and I have 7. So, okay, this one was in between the lamp and the ghost hand, was when I got that. It was at a time when I was really, really obsessed with rap. Was sure I was going to make it as a professional rapper very, very shortly. Anyway, I'm going to move on. So, last tattoo is this cup of coffee being spilled. And this is related to something I've talked about quite a bit on here, which is that coffee and me are not really good for each other. I used to be able to drink a lot of coffee, and I just can't really anymore without facing some serious consequences regarding my digestion, you know, having an upset stomach, my acid reflux, my throat getting sore because of the acid reflux, my lack of sleep, my anxiety, my anger, which just goes through the roof when I've gotten to the point where I built up a tolerance to coffee and it doesn't get me that surge of joy, you know, and like that feeling of like I can do anything. It just makes me really panicky and on edge, and to the point where just like every little small thing bothers me just beyond belief. And so I've made many, many attempts to stop drinking it. And they haven't been the most... I mean, you just saw the other day I was still drinking coffee. But, I don't know. I just like that. I like it being here as a good symbol for... Just remember that there's a part of you that wants that out of your life. And don't beat yourself up over the times that you go back to it. Especially because it's not something lethal like meth or heroin. There are far worse things for you to keep doing even past the point of you realizing you probably shouldn't be doing it. And I'm not trying to make a moral statement about coffee. I do think that it has been genetically modified to be horribly addictive, and like if you have it one day, you're gonna feel like you cannot live without it every day the rest of your life without putting some sort of foot down. I do believe that it's also very, very... Any day that I stop drinking coffee, I need to make sure that I don't got crap going on, because I'm gonna feel very, very bad on that day after a slew of drinking coffee. Yeah, I also just think it looks cool. I don't know. There's not. I get a lot of compliments on it, and it's from their. I know that the population at large drinks coffee, so I know that I like that it's not a preachy message either. Like if I had a cup of coffee with like a circle and a line through it, I think that people wouldn't like it as much because it would probably look like I'm saying you shouldn't drink coffee. But no, I just think it's a cool. The flow of liquid out of the cup is pretty neato. Yeah, so I think it's something that people can appreciate even when they don't exactly empathize with the sentiment of it. And you know what's funny? So the day that after I got this, I actually did a short film. It was for a 8-hour film festival. It was really cool. We made a full 4-hour movie, and it was about ghost hunters. It's a really silly, cool movie that we just made in this guy's apartment. And we ended up winning the film festival, like the film race. It was great. And this tattoo, you know, when it's first done and it's like super fresh, and it just pops. And I was wearing a tank top the whole thing. I like that I got to put that tattoo on full display. That was really, really neat. Okay, one little thing that I do, because I didn't really talk about it very much, one thing I do want to talk about this is that I initially intended for it to just be in this little space right here. That's how I wrote it out. You know, the guy had me write it in my own handwriting, and I give it to him. He's like, dude, we're going to have to make this at least twice as big in order for me to be able to make a tattoo of this. It's like, oh, okay, whatever. So it still fits in here, but it's like in between Harold and the lamp. But it's just kind of awkwardly like stuck in there like it wasn't supposed to be there. I just thought that was funny. It's still... I really like that it's a text tattoo that people can't read unless they put their face right up against it. Like they always have to ask me what it says. And it's just because my handwriting is... I mean, I can write legibly. I can write clearly and defined. And I can even do cursive pretty sweet looking. My calligraphy can be good if I put conscious effort into it. But when I'm writing a song, I'm the only one who needs to read it. So I just don't bother. I'm not methodical about it at all. And it's not the worst chicken scratch handwriting you've ever seen, but it's not very good. It's a guy's handwriting, you know, at the end of it all. So that just about does it. That tattoo was pretty fun to get. I got it at a tattoo parlor that was really close to where I worked at the time, and actually where I worked up until pretty recently. But there you go. Look at that. That is my stupid tattoo arm. And I call it my stupid tattoo arm because, you know, I just wonder if it's the right thing to have tattoos. You know, obviously I got this one just last year. It was January of 2021. I got this coffee tattoo. So there was a 3-year gap in between the last tattoo and that tattoo. Like between the ghost and the coffee cup. It creates some... Sometimes I feel like I want to keep them covered the entire year. I mean, especially when I'm around my grandma. I know she's judging me. She's accepted it, but I know that she's judging me for it. And, you know, I gotta apply an extra bout of sunscreen on this because these things were darn expensive. And then some days I think about maybe I should just go get them wiped completely like Pete Davidson is doing with all of his. It's definitely going to create some problems if I start really hardcore pursuing acting and going out and auditioning for everything. Because I'm not the type of guy that really... I won't get typecast as the type of character that has tattoos. If I get typecast as a nerdy guy... I mean, even if they do have tattoos, like... having a Harold and the Purple Crayon, like a children's book tattoo and a chess pawn and a lamp, they're not the common things that characters are going to have, right? So, yeah, I don't entirely know where I stand on it, but I do like that each one of those does have some significance to me and reflects... like, none of these sentiments of any of these tattoos are vastly opposed to what I believe in. Like, they all still really resonate with who I am today, because they had some glimmer of an idea that I still really stand by, and I think that's very lucky. I could have, you know, if I got a tattoo in 6th grade, I would have probably gotten a Fall Out Boy tattoo, which isn't really the kind of music I'm into anymore. Yeah. Yeah. They're a part of, I think that's a good way to sum it up. They're a part of me. They're literally a part of me, in all their beautiful, flawed glory. And hey, they're a good conversation piece, if nothing else. Especially with the right people, it's really fun talking about them too. Strangers, not so much, because I'm not going to get into too much detail. But yeah, they give a glimpse of who I am. And this arm is now worth over $1,000.